I'm going to shock you with what I'm about to say, but I believe that former President Barack Obama once made a mistake. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. And everybody knows that I'm a big fan of Barack Obama, also known as, what were his nicknames? The Lightbringer, Black Jesus, the Chosen One, and all that.
Light Worker.
Yeah, Light Worker. Yeah. That's it. The Light Worker and all that. But you know what? I'm afraid to break this news to you. Barack Obama made a mistake. You know, he came to fame. Yeah, I'm breaking your heart here, Bill. I know it makes me weep on the inside, too. But Barack Obama first earned national fame with that stirring 2004 speech at the Democratic National Convention where he said, "There isn't a red America, there isn't a blue America, there is just one America." But that isn't true. There are two Americas. There are Karens and not Karens. Are we clear on this? Now, for those who don't know what Karens are, these are they're the new Mrs. Grundys, the new Mrs. What's the other reference, Bill?
Kravitz.
Yes, the new Mrs. Kravitz, the Budinskis. They tend to be upper middle class white women who know exactly what you should be doing at all times and aren't afraid to tell you so in the strongest possible language. To give you just one example, here's a great clip from recent days.
Scream it loud enough that you can hear me over your music. Park closed. You will get arrested if the cops come.
Wait, can we go over there?
Is that crazy enough for you?
Can we go over there?
Park closed. The whole area. Get it through your thick head. You are the reason we are in this situation. You are the problem, not the solution. Go ahead, keep recording. Who are you going to show it to? You're the idiot doing the wrong thing. I'm just trying to save your ass and save your life. But die, okay? I hope both of you get the coronavirus. I hope you both die a long, painful death.
And we've got more examples, of course, than just that. We've actually got some official examples because this really plays into the whole coronavirus thing. Reason Magazine reports that undercover cops arrest two women for operating home beauty businesses in violation of coronavirus shutdown. Clearly, this is work that undercover police need to be doing. Business Insider Anna Medeiros Miller had to write a piece saying, "Stop shaming people for going outside. The risks are generally low and the benefits are endless." And she did everything but actually mention people named Karen in this article. The Washington Post felt the need to publish a piece saying that if you call someone a Karen for being a Budinsky, that you are being a sexist, misogynist, woman-hating member of the Woman Haters Club. Bill, why are there Karens?
Because of actually, I've revised this. I was going to say because of a defect in the genetic code, that there is a gene that's misfired, and that gene is the gene that demands that you tell other people what to do. This is the gene that basically says you can't go out and ride ATVs in the desert, even though you don't know what an ATV is and you've never been to the desert. This is the gene that bans wants to ban things like wave runners for people who live in Kansas. Big on that plan to ban those because they're ecologically unsound and also make a lot of noise, which they never hear. And the ultimate example of this, by the way, is that there was a time, I don't know, it was 10 years ago, when they were talking about mining asteroids. No, actually, this is a script I wrote, come to think of it. It's just fiction, but it's just a matter of time. When people are going to start protesting mining an asteroid that is invisible to the naked eye, that they've never heard of, that is nothing but a ball of dust and rock and platinum. And there are going to be people protesting that too, because they like to tell other people what to do. And a lot of it is virtue signaling. A lot of it is their ability to say, see how much I care about our lives and so on. But I realize that that's actually not quite right. The genetic change, the mutation, is not mutating people into Karens, because humans have always been Karens. Our entire history of our species is the history of people telling other people what to do. And it's built into the human condition. It's built into mammals in general. The genetic freaks are us. We're the ones with this mutation that for some reason we had enough people get together and decide, no, I don't need to tell anybody else what to do. If they want to live their own life, that's their business. Just leave me alone. And for a while there, this nation was populated by people like that because they left where they were instead of complaining about it and ratting out their neighbors. They got on a boat and sailed to a country they'd never seen before or heard before, took what they could carry with them, and basically de-Karenized themselves. Unfortunately, now we've been here without hardship for so long that pathology is returning. But it's just that simple. It's people telling other people what to do, and it's a sense of power and revenge and all the rest of it. The Soviet Union was famous for this. China is doing it now electronically. But in the Soviet Union, every apartment complex had a number of informers, just low-level snitches. Mrs. Servlesky was I saw her come up with more sugar than she was allotted. I think you should look into this. And in China, there's surveillance, and they're checking what websites you see and so on, and they're giving you a social score. And if you don't like somebody, you can rat them out, lower their social score, ruin their lives. It's all the people that are attracted to this, Steve, are people who believe that the world owes them something. They're out for revenge on the world. They're people who glory in the abuse of tiny little amounts of power, because they feel that they are utterly powerless themselves. And really it is kind of a revenge kind of thing. I have to say, I haven't seen it quite so much lately at the DMV. It's been a little better, but I certainly remember many times when you could simply watch people at the DMV with a room full of 200 or 300 people with holding numbers waiting, and seeing 3 or 4 of them just leaning against a copy machine, sipping coffee, not in the back room, because that would be appropriate. Everybody's entitled to a coffee break. No, doing it out in front of everybody so that everybody could see that they don't give a damn about how long it takes for them to wait. They're just going to have to wait because you're in my house now. And I'm the person who's going to decide whether or not you get your driver's license today or whatever the case may be. Just since I just have to throw this one thing in, when my wife and I went for our interview for resident alien status, the guy concluded the interview by saying, "I've decided to approve it." And I remember just feeling my blood run cold, like, you decided my future. You decided the future of the two of us. If you had said she met the requirements prescribed by law, that would be an entirely different thing.
Yes.
But that's not what he said. He said, I've decided to approve this. Well, what if you had a bad day? And who the hell are you to approve this? It's not your judgment. You have to see whether or not we've conformed with the immigration regulations that are there by law. And this kind of thing's happening all the time. I recall at Oshkosh a couple of years ago, an FAA guy stood up and said, and it was under a lot of attack since it was, air show, FAA. And the guy was saying, well, you guys are being kind of hard of us. We let you do this and we let you do that. And I stood up and said, you don't let us do anything. We don't work for you. You work for us. The sky belongs to us unless you can make a compelling case for why us being there is a violation of the greater good. And unless you can do that, you don't get to say, I've decided or we've decided to allow you to do this. It doesn't work that way. But this is the kind of person that a Karen is. They're people who are attracted to authority. They usually don't have the competence or the personality or the work ethic to develop real authority. So they get their little bits of authority. And that's where all of the concentration camp guards come from. This is where all of the secret police people come from. This is where all of the snitches come from. It's from people who have filled with this burning desire for revenge on the world and to get even with a world that has overlooked them and their magnificent, unique talents that have gone unrecognized for so long.
Thank you, Bill. Scott, let me get a little philosophical with you on this. Karenism, Badinskyism, Bossyism, Mrs. Grundyism, all of the rest, whatever you want to call it. Karen just happens to be the new label for a particular style of this personality trait. It transcends religion. It transcends political beliefs. There are atheists who want to leave people alone. There are atheists who are big boss communists. There are Christians who split along these same lines. I'm sure there are Muslims as well. So what is it at the core that divides people into those who want to tell people what to do and those who don't?
It's a fascinating question because I was trying to think of an example. A lot of times we're talking about things that we've seen in the media and it's kind of an abstraction, or it's removed from us by the fact that it's celebrities on the other side of the screen. It's not anybody we actually know. And I was trying to think, is there anybody I know who's like this? And I thought of a woman I used to work with. And I would describe her as a very rules-abiding person. She was always interested to know what are the rules. And I initially thought, well, that's kind of good because she wants to make sure she's doing things the right way. But then later on, I rapidly discovered that not only did she want to make sure she was doing things the right way, she wanted to make sure I was doing things the right way. Yeah. And she had a preconceived notion that if she didn't understand what I was doing, I must be doing it the wrong way, and that it was her obligation to tell me. And I can remember one day when she walked up to me to inform me that I was doing something that was clearly a breach of company policy, and she stated it in terms of company policy. And my inclination was to stop and go, no, listen, let me explain what I was doing here. It's not what you think it is, because here's what I was doing. And I just looked at her and I said, look, if you want to talk about this later, we can do that. But right now, I've got to get to work. And all I can tell you is it's not what you think. And I moved on. and there is that, I think there's the reason why she was the way she was, and the reason why so many of these folks are the way they are, is not because they value the rules so highly. It's because they resent the rules, but they feel powerless in the face of them. It's like Bill said, they don't have any real authority of their own, and they feel like their entire life is lived under some sort of regimen that somebody else has determined, and they are grudgingly going along with it, thinking that they can earn approbation by being seen as somebody who follows the guidelines, when in fact the whole time it really gets under their into their craw and under their saddle. It really bothers them. And so like little kids who will go up and say, hey, Dad, my brother was doing this thing that you said that we shouldn't do. And the dad goes, okay. And he says, well, no, but remember you said we shouldn't do that. And the dad basically makes it clear that he no longer cares whether anybody does that or not. And he quickly finds out that the reason why the kid was reporting on his brother is because he wanted to do it. And the only reason he's bringing it up is because he feels like, I'm restrained under these rules, but my brother isn't restrained under the rules. I want to do what he does, so let's get him in trouble. And I think that really gets down to, it's elementary psychology, but it really gets down to the nub of what this is all about. Nobody likes being told what to do. But some people think that that's the way you have to function. I find myself constantly telling people who seem to be constrained by imaginary rules or by authorities that really have no authority. You'll hear people talking all the time, well, I have to do this, I have to do that. And I say, really, you have to? Is it illegal to not do that? Who says you have to do that? And I think if what I really want for Karen is that she would be able to be free from this burden that she has. Not only the burden that she feels to live a certain way, but the burden that she feels to make sure that everybody else is living a certain way. There's one of my favorite verses in the Bible says, it is for freedom that Christ set us free. And I would just say, hey, Karen, be free.
I'll finish up with a slightly different thought than that, although I'm not crossing Scott on that at all. I think that's lovely. With the coronavirus shutdown, we've just got a lot more rules and a lot of bored people looking to enforce them. So let me finish just with two very quick thoughts, because Bill and Scott said almost everything I could have hoped to say in this segment. The first is Robert Heinlein wrote in Time Enough for Love, freedom begins when you tell Mrs. Grundy to go fly a kite. And I've always loved that. Just get out of here. I'm doing my own thing, and it's none of your dang business. And that's what we should do on the social scale, on the neighborhood level, and the places where we live, work, and hang out as these orders are lifted and we can get back out in the world again and get to work again. On the government level, we've seen the regulatory state magically lift some of its parts. And the world's not falling apart as we deregulate and get rid of some of this regulatory cruft that's been weighing down on the economy for the last 40 or 50 years. And we're learning that John Galt had it right at the end of Atlas Shrugged when he said, "Get the hell out of my way." And that's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Remember, content like this needs sponsors like you, so please click on over to BillWhittle.com, become a member. We'd love to have you on board. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.